All right. Um, so if you don't mind, since I'm recording, I'll do a little quick intro for anybody. Um, uh, so we have joining us is Nathaniel, and I don't know what's your last name.
It's Nathaniel Acosta.
Okay, cool. It's Nathaniel
Yeah,
Acosta. And you, well, I'll just let you introduce yourself completely. But basically, Nathaniel, you've been making a living as an indie developer for about 6 years. Is that right? Yeah,
more or
cool.
less.
Okay. And can I don't know if I can full screen your face here. Can I do this? Oh, there we go. That works. Okay, cool. Um, so yeah, I don't know. With that, I guess you just want to start telling us about maybe starting off with just kind of your background, how you got into making games and stuff.
Yeah. I'll hit everybody with the little introduction notes because almost always I expect people to say introduce yourself. So I have that here. So
I see.
hello everyone. My name's Nathaniel. I am a 22-year-old indie game developer. I currently own two companies. Additionally, just for a little bit of information, I graduated high school at 14. So I'm a little bit
Oh
of a
dear.
weird individual. I've worked on 5 major projects as well as with 2 major AAA studios. One of which is out of the country, which is Rare Ltd. And then I've also worked at Sucker Punch as a gameplay programmer. I cannot, at the moment, I can't really say what I worked on Rare or at Rare, but I can say what I worked on at Sucker Punch if you guys have questions about that. So additionally, the main way I make income is I own 2 companies, which is Dreadwater Interactive, which is my main company, which does Roblox game development as well as some Unity projects. And its subsidiary Revelation Games, which is specifically Unity, and that handles things like Kickstarters as well as unique Unity projects. 2 major ones that we've worked on in the last 2 years are Eden Remains Arrival, and then As One As We Survive just finished its Kickstarter campaign. Unfortunately, due to events with Unity, that will be delayed, which I won't go into detail about. So about the Roblox side of things, I am one of the top 30 developers. I just got back a couple days ago from the Roblox Developer Conference, which unfortunately closed early due to some threats
Oh
regarding
god,
the
yeah.
event, the conference, which was really unfortunate. But I've worked in the Roblox Accelerator program as well as the Incubator program with my projects, most notably Archmore, which is a 3D RPG that is now being rebooted by myself with one of the students at MCC, which is Nicholas Harris, which he's not here.
He's famous, so they all know him. I think so. Famous
Yeah, he's not
here,
an artist apparently.
not an artist. Yeah, exactly.
And if you guys have seen any clips of that rolling around in the Discord, that project is currently 19 days into development. So everything that has been done there has
Wow,
started at
cool.
the beginning of this month. So it's primarily been me with Nicholas. Been doing. He did a website. He's also been doing some back end to try to bring him into Roblox. I'm trying to teach him the engine, which is taking some time. So that's kind of the introduction breakdown. So I don't really.
Yeah,
I guess what would you want to hear
yeah.
more
Well, I mean,
about?
I guess I'm obviously intrigued by the rare thing, but I understand. We'll skip rare for now, but definitely give us some info about. I had so yeah. I mean, that's interesting. You graduated super early. So were you programming like at a super young age or something, or like?
So I started programming in C++ when I was 8 years old,
Okay, yeah.
and it was my father who got me into it, and I kind of just, unfortunately, he passed away about 2 years later,
Oh
and I
no,
just
I'm
kind
sorry.
of, as a thing to him, I was like, you know what, let me try to learn this because he
Wow,
was a old school like software engineer,
wow.
not
Okay,
a game,
cool.
not specifically in games, but he just did a lot of software dev.
Sure.
The reason I mentioned Photoshop, he worked on the original Photoshop.
Wow.
He's that old. So, but yeah, he knew a lot of cool stuff. Like it was awesome hearing him talk about AC, ASCII, like those really old programming
Yeah,
languages that are
sure.
just
Yep.
incredibly complex. So yeah, I'm completely self-taught. Even though I have attended college, I ended up dropping out of Hastings College after 2 years
Yeah. Okay.
because I just ain't for me. I'm gonna
Yeah.
be honest, college ain't for me. But I respect the connections. Like I got a lot of connections through Hastings
Sure.
College,
Yeah.
and Nicholas was one of those. So I ended up meeting him
Oh,
at the
really?
time
Okay.
I was doing that. Yeah, we were doing Rocket League esports at the time.
That's funny. Okay. Wait, wait.
So
So
we've
where do
known
you
each other for a
live?
while. So I live in Kearney here in Nebraska,
What? Oh,
which
I
is
didn't know it. That's crazy. Wait, so did you work for Rare and Sucker Punch remotely?
so Sucker Punch. I was living in Boston, and
Wow.
then
Okay.
Rare. I lived in Brighton
Oh, you
because you
actually
needed to be
moved?
in. Yep,
Wow.
yep.
Okay. Okay. Oh, that's so wild. Okay.
Yeah, it's a crazy experience. Yeah,
So,
it's also really rough because I only worked at Rare for 2 years,
yep.
and I just ended about 8 months ago. Where it's basically I can't really say too much, but
Right.
experience was not great, and
Right.
I needed to go out on my own, and that's why I've been starting back into my own projects and focusing on my company. So,
Well, that's, I mean, I don't know how much Nicholas has told you about, Ken and I. That's, there's reasons that we don't work at big studios anymore either.
oh
So,
yeah, it's yeah. I did want to real quick bring up. I absolutely
It has
love
its
Skycadia.
benefits.
oh, thank you, man. Yeah. Well,
So
and definitely,
yeah,
if you know anybody, I'm happy to just give out keys and stuff. So don't hesitate if you've got anybody you want to share it with. I can share out
awesome.
keys for sure. So
But yeah, I love it. I love the aesthetic. It gives me old school Star Fox vibes,
yeah, thank
which I
you,
kind of
thank
love.
you. Well, so yeah, what can you tell us about the Sucker Punch? Well, because now I
Uh,
understand the order that you. It's like okay, yeah, whatever that
yeah.
is,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
So it was Sucker Punch, then Rare,
Gotcha.
and
Okay,
then now I'm back to indie development, which I always kind of did it, but it was a side thing. And
sure,
certain companies, can't say which of the two, they have very strict requirements about working on side projects.
right.
Or if you are working on side projects, there's IP ownership problems
Yes.
that
Yep,
Yeah.
is not great.
yep.
Yes.
We've
Yeah,
all, yeah,
it can get rough. So there was a whole legal problem that I had to go through to keep Dreadwater and Revelation IP separate when I was working at that company.
well, at
Whereas
least, yeah, you
I
were
had to
able to
literally
work.
step away.
Yeah.
But yeah, so at Sucker Punch, I was a senior gameplay programmer, which is weird to hear. But I
Okay, wait.
worked on the back end networking for Ghost of Tsushima.
Wow. Okay. And
So
how did you? Was that your first like what?
it was
I
the
shouldn't say
first
real.
AAA position. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did
So
you?
I
How did you go straight to senior gameplay engineer?
because I knew the lead.
Nice. Okay,
he
that helps.
he was a friend with I don't know if you guys know this person, but Jeffrey Simmons is the person who co-founded Revelation Games with me. He
Okay.
worked on old school indies like Fury, if you guys know that one, which is pretty good. But Jeffrey Simmons is an audio guy and a designer, and he currently is doing just commission work alongside Revelation Games. But
Cool.
he
Okay.
hooked me up with a connection, and we really clicked. And he really loved my portfolio, and I ended up getting. I didn't get in as a senior. I got in a year in
Okay.
because I was there
Gotcha.
for 4 years.
So wow, 4 years. Wait a minute. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm trying to do the math. So you were
So
did you get
14,
what?
got in at 17.
Okay, you graduated from high school when you were 14, then you got into Punch when?
17.
Wow. Okay, that's crazy. Okay. Was that like legally the earliest they could hire
Yeah, and even then, my pay was like a lot lower,
you?
and I could only get I got promoted to senior like literally a year before I got
Yeah.
canned.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Which they did some cutbacks and they were like, actually, we don't need you, so
Yeah.
we're gonna let you go.
Yeah, but
Which was
that's
unfortunate.
that's a great thing to have on your resume to
Oh,
then
it's
find
such a,
another.
like yeah. Everybody like looks at that and it's like it
Like,
immediately bumps me above others.
yeah, right.
And I will be transparent to those who are here, which is if you guys want to get a senior position, the thing about getting a senior position is you mainly need obviously skills in whatever you're going in. So I was in the programming department, so I needed a lot of programming. But if you guys are, I hear a lot of you guys are 3D artists and 2D artists. For UI design and 3D. If you guys have really good experience in that, a really good portfolio, and also have background in team leadership, that is
Yep.
incredibly important.
Yep.
Is and probably I don't know how your guys' class structure is, but I'm assuming there's group projects and things like that, or mini game jams or something.
Yeah, that's
Which
so I that's the thing is I try not to force that in classes, but I really, really, really encourage game jams and working together with people in the server and everything. So that's
mhm.
and because exactly what you're talking about, like, or even just like for people that have experience with like management, even outside of software stuff,
Mhm.
but just like,
Yeah.
saying how do you start applying those skills towards game development essentially. So
Yeah, it's basically just like if you have a really good management skills, really good communication. You don't even need too great of management skills. You just need to be a really good communicator, really motivating to people that are below you. Because the thing is, right, as a senior, you're going to be communicating with maybe four other developers constantly to try to, obviously help them along, get stuff done, and being able to communicate and motivate and try to bring tasks further along. It's really important
Well,
that you know how to communicate and know your stuff as
so
well.
I mean, the thing is, I think for a lot of people, when they're looking at job postings, they see like communication skills or
Communication, yeah.
what are some practical examples you could give of what you
Some
mean by that?
practical examples. Okay, some practical examples would be being confident. So basically, you need to look happy, which is kind of a weird thing, but you need to say it. If you come in and you're like, you could say really good stuff, but if you say it like monotone and like, hey, your work is really good, but you need to change this and this texture isn't right, like that's
Energy,
awful. That's
energy.
awful.
You
Yeah,
lack
you need to
energy.
be productive. You need to be, yeah, very projecting your voice.
I'm
Be
laughing
very
because
aesthetic.
I feel like people don't really talk about this enough, but it's
It's
like it's
true.
totally true. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like it's so important to have because it's like the thing is your team's energy is based off you. If you're
yeah,
happy,
Yeah.
if you're motivated, if you project that, then things will be a lot better. People will feel happy, they'll feel that you appreciate their work.
yeah,
Where it's like if you're monotone and being quiet or kind of in with yourself, it leaves a lot of doubt, and doubt can lead to demotivation and also just kind of falling behind on tasks, and that you really don't want that. But in other terms of communication, I would say also just being transparent. Don't try to put things behind, thin veils. Try to be as blunt, as honest as possible without, being completely mean. Because the thing is, right, is if you sugarcoat and beat around the bush a lot, people are going to realize that, and it's going to either shorten conversations where they don't want to talk to you as much, and then you'll before you can even get to your point, they'll kind of just go, oh yeah, yeah, I get what you mean, and then shove you away. And
is
that's where it's just being transparent
is there
is pretty
something
clear.
like I mean, obviously go into whatever amount of detail, but I mean, can you try to give like kind of
Like a
an
practical
example,
example.
like yeah, I mean, of what you're talking about there, where like I mean, because I think that's something like how giving constructive feedback to somebody that yeah, I
Okay.
mean, yeah,
I'm going to use a latest example, and Nicholas will be unhappy with me, but it'll be fine.
it's being
Uh, so,
recorded.
so to give you guys some reference, so Nicholas was working yesterday on a plugin for Roblox Studio to basically for some pathfinding stuff. We're using A Star. I don't know
Yep,
if y'all
yep,
are
yep.
nerds about that or not, but we're using a custom pathfinding algorithm, and I needed to add because we are using custom terrain and not normal terrain voxels in the engine, we need to have objects and things like that. For example, I don't know if you guys saw some exclusive replication work. I think you did, Ian. Where we're basically
Oh,
streaming assets to the
yes, yes,
client
yeah, yeah, yeah.
exclusively.
He was just
Yeah.
showing some of that
So
today, I
so
think. Yeah.
like we need to add pathfinding null regions,
Yes.
and it's like that's really tedious. So the way we did it is I asked him to do a plugin that basically we could select a model in the engine and then click a button on this plugin, and it will create a null part with the exact location, the exact size of like a house,
Gotcha.
for
Yep.
example, and provide the pathfinders and attributes that are custom to my code. The issue is when he was originally doing this for a tool that's to be used, the UX was really bad. There was no prompts. Which the thing in any form of code is transparency about warnings, and there was no warnings. So if you just misinputted, you had no idea what was going on.
Yep.
So the way that I opened this dialogue is I basically first of all, if you're showing or talking about something, always have the work open in front of you when you're talking to the person, because it's way easier to show the person than to explain something like I just did.
Yes,
Like
yes.
for people who don't have context, you guys can literally hear from experience that you're like, what is this guy talking about? I kind of know what he's talking about. So having the ability to show it is important. So that's the first step, is have the plugin, have the model in the Blender open or Maya or whatever you're using. And then the additional thing is open the dialogue and go like, all right, so I'll just use Nicholas for this example. Hey Nicholas, so this code's fine, but the issue is when we select models, it's not working, but you're not providing any warning code. Why don't you go in and modify the code so that way it prints into the console? That way we can bare minimum know something isn't being corrected. And he was like, oh, okay, I fully understand that. And while that you're doing that, you literally show the problem. Because that's something easily replicatable.
Right.
Another example would be if you're showing a texture. And you're like, oh, I don't like the color theory of that. Oh, what do you mean? This is where you literally have your cursor and you're like, so this wood grain right here doesn't quite match this one, or it's too bright. Just be, as it's difficult to describe.
Well, I'll say Ken is really good at this, where he'll do really detailed, because he worked as an art director and everything at EA and Gameloft, and like he's really more patient than I am with like taking somebody's like their work and doing a bunch of drawovers and notes on these,
breaking down.
So it's the same thing, that's showing rather than just talking about it. So.
Yeah, because another thing too is iteration is important. You want to keep iterations as low as possible and get things, done quicker. And the way you can do that is leave less open to interpretation.
Yes.
The more information there is on an item or a note, the easier it is for that person to go, oh, that's what they want, or that's what they need of me. Rather than going, okay, that's really vague. What does he mean he wants a different color brown? Where instead you could like reference a hex code and go, maybe try this and see how that looks. And just something like that.
That was totally what would happen at Gameloft, was just saying, we don't like this sky. And you're like, okay, I guess I'll change it a little bit and see if they like it then.
It's like, what don't you like? The hair, the face? Be specific.
Well, so can I back up a little bit to, probably more relevant for our students right now, is like thinking about, so I know you got your foot in the door really early. Like, how did that happen? Like, how did you start connecting with people on, forums or Discord channels or stuff like that? Or
my major tip is a very clear one. Never underestimate connections. Yeah. And the cooler you can make portfolio pieces, the better. So, for example, I met a lot of my connections through Twitter. I did some posts. I did some cool stuff. And then eventually, you just need one job. If you get one job with somebody notable, like your Professor Ian here, just one connection.
I'm famous.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. One connection, and they have a whole tree of connections. And eventually, you'll become that person as well. Right, so it's just getting your foot. Don't think of it as trying to get to one person specifically. Think of like, I just need one person. Doesn't matter who. Just need a job who likes my work. And a good way to do that is Twitter. You almost always will find people on Twitter.
What's your Twitter handle, by the way?
Oh, at Valxir. You can find me at Valxir.
Wait, how do you spell that?
Valxire.
Xire.
Should be my the same profile picture.
Oh, got it. Cool. All right, I'm following you.
Awesome. Another good way, which is it's an E, not a G. Rowie.
Here, I'll drop it into the chat here. There we
go. So another thing which I personally don't use, but I will admit is really good, is LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, I will admit, a little old school, where it is very much for business networking. But you'd be surprised where people who just, if you combine that with social media as well, and you find relevant people and then try to connect with them on LinkedIn.
I didn't pay him to say this, but this is usually, that's why I'm always telling them is you should be on Twitter. But then that's the thing. I use Twitter to stay connected with like, especially indie devs and stuff. But then I use LinkedIn because it's a good way to stay connected with people at, I don't know, studios I find usually and stuff like that. It's a little bit easier.
The key is to never rely on one. Yeah. Always have multiple. Have a tree of your own connection devices. Like, for example, think you have yourself here as a node tree. And then you have Twitter, LinkedIn, and I don't know, Facebook. And those all will branch into their own set of connections where you can message a person on Twitter. Yeah, Discord as well. Even Discord's a little more closed down, but you can definitely get some good connections, especially if you're in an internship program or something. You can definitely see other people in the Discord. A lot of the times, internship owners will have their own alumni kind of thing where they'll basically throw in, like, for example, the Roblox Accelerator program. has a Discord server with every previous accelerator member, and they will almost always communicate with you, provide feedback, even if you're not an active accelerator.
So were
And that's
you?
just a good example.
I mean, so were you? Did you get your foot in the door with programming? Like, did you just like what type of stuff did you have as a
So I
pro?
started with Unity when I was 15. And so the main thing that I did was I shared Unity stuff as well as Roblox stuff. I kind of started with Roblox because I loved the quickness of
Yeah,
it. Because in a day I could have
yeah,
something that would look good. And also, I think it's something that's good to know is it doesn't hurt to sometimes spend a week on what I like to call a portfolio fluff piece of something that's just cool or tech or something, even if it's just like you make it because you're like, I know this will go well on Twitter. Like, I know this thing is trending. Let me model it. And then just throw it in your portfolio.
yeah.
And like, there you go.
Well, oh, so I mean, I guess how do you like what did your portfolio for programming look like? I mean, was that like a GitHub portfolio or like how did you
Yep.
do?
So I usually recommend using GitHub. A lot of the times, most programming positions they'll ask for code snippets
Right.
as well as they wish to view the quality of a code. So never be unprepared. Always have a GitHub repo that's privated or unlisted, with some of your best code in it that you can just whatever, even if it's in an interview. Sometimes interviewers will just check to see if you have it, which is kind of just also a check for preparedness. And the same thing with like models. And it's like the key thing was I'm not a 3D artist, and I know that. And I'm not going to try to give 3D artist advice, but I will give one little segment, which is knowing just a little bit about other fields will open a lot of connections. Because if you can provide a little bit of feedback to your programmer friend, you can then start branching more and more and more. So getting a little bit of a basic understanding of relative fields. Like if you're a 3D artist, maybe look at a 2D artist and go like, try to learn a little bit of the methods. And that way you can provide feedback, especially on stuff like Twitter. Become the person replying to those tweets.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then boom, you'll start building your connection network that way. Maybe they'll get successful and then boom, they know you because you were supportive.
Yep.
And then you can talk to them. It's just little
That's
things like that.
that's one of the best things you just said for me was the cross discipline ability to communicate is what game development's all about. It's just,
Mhm.
and I think as an artist, I really enjoy my interactions with designers and being able to work with engineers, being able to work with shader writers, being able to work with these people who we're all trying to do the same thing, but we're coming at it from a different
Yeah, get insights.
perspective.
Yeah.
So having an understanding of what everybody else has to do, how the problems they have to solve, makes it easier for you to do your job, and they will kind of respect you more if you have some interest and some understanding of what their role is. It's unique. I came from film, which there's a little bit of that, but
That's awesome.
in games, in game development, it's all about that, and that's why I truly came to really enjoy working in game development was the cross discipline interaction and the way as an art director I had to kind of think about how do I support a design or how do I change something to support a certain technical limitation.
Yeah.
I found that really um, it was really good development for me, and I really enjoyed just building something with a bunch of different people with different skills and different angles of experience. It was really good. So
That's the beautiful thing about game development is it's sometimes hundreds of people coming together to make one
Yep.
beautiful product. And the easier the collaboration is, the better the product will always be if team
Yep.
synergy is better. And that's not to say you can't make independent projects as well. Because the thing is, some independent projects can be better than a product made by a team who isn't collaborating together well or is a mess for organization. So having a good organization scheme, having good communication skills, and having a passing understanding of what your fellow coworkers and other departments are working on for those morning scrums and such to try to provide good feedback, and also in turn, if you do that for them, they'll most likely do it for you as well. And that's good because you'll sometimes be stuck on something, and then for example, a 3D artist will come in and go like, "Why haven't you tried like that?" And it's like, "Oh, I didn't even think about that." And it's just something where beautiful things can happen like that. Or if you're doing a designing meeting, having a passing understanding of just everything is pretty good. If you have a little bit of 3D art, if you have a little bit of the programming aspect, to as a team when you're doing those design meetings, keep in mind all of those factors, as Ken here said.
It's the secret sauce, I think.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it's just one of the most beautiful things to see, especially when you're working for like a 1 to 2 years on something, and then you finally just have that. This is what we have been working on, and it's absolutely amazing. There's no feeling like it, in my opinion.
Well, I guess before I keep ranting, does anybody have like questions that have popped up that you want to ask Nathaniel? I mean, obviously you can drop stuff in chat, or if anybody wants to hop on their mic to ask any questions. I mean, I have a bunch of questions, so but I'm like, I'll shut up for a second before before I ask more questions.
Yeah, I'm perfectly open to answering whatever questions. It's kind of why I'm here. Okay, well, even if it's just like a stupid question, don't be scared to ask. I mean, I'll do my best to answer. Well, and also it can be a personal question too if you're curious about something about me. I mean, rather than work related.
Yeah, I mean, so I forgot. You've got what's the parent company, and then all
right. So Dreadwater Interactive is the main company that I founded with me and my fiance, and then Revelation Games is a subsidiary for Unity development.
Yeah, cool. Okay, very cool.
For reference, I will bring this up, something I forgot to bring up. We just launched earlier today, which I can't share the Discord, but I just worked with Outstanding Move and a partnership with Gen G to bring a Crocs crossover to Roblox that launched 2 days ago. We're currently at 6,000 concurrent. And we got a crossover with UGC items on Roblox with Gen G and Crocs, which was all thanks to connections made with Roblox staff that they reached out to us to be willing.
Was that something that you started getting set up with during that Roblox convention?
The Roblox Developer Conference. So the Roblox Developer Conference is just they'll invite usually the top 300-ish developers to just talk about what's going on in the future of Roblox, give out the innovation awards for certain who best art direction, best sound,
okay.
most immersive, stuff like that. And this is actually going on beforehand where I have made connections at Roblox Developer Conference, and it's a great thing if you're ever able to go to a conference of any kind and you have just a little bit of, even if it's out of your shell, just talking with people and being like, engaging, you'll make some good connections that will then just say like, hey, follow me on Twitter and link your Twitter or something like that. But no, this was also made during the Accelerate program, which is a 3-month internship at Roblox that anybody can apply for. I think it's closed now though. It will open in January if you guys are interested.
Yeah, do it multiple times a year. Well, I actually have a former student that she's in. I need to ping her because she runs a Roblox server that, I mean, the last time I checked with her, I think it has something like 10,000 players a day or something like that, which, I mean, as far as I knew, is like pretty successful for just like, it's basically a hobby server that she runs, but she's been running it for forever.
That's awesome.
So I can't remember the name of it right now, but her name's
no worries. Definitely connect us later.
That'd be a lot of fun. She got me into a while ago looking more seriously into Roblox, but I think Roblox really took off a little bit after I got working at studios and stuff like that. So I've played around in Roblox, and I know that there's people that are doing all sorts of crazy stuff with it. I mean, so that's been cool for me seeing, like, Nicholas has been sharing what you all are working on and stuff. And are you able to actually, I don't know if you could screen share or something like that to that's fine if not.
No, I can. I'm perfectly fine showing it off. Just give me a moment. I don't have the studio open because I knew if I did I'd be coding on the side. Because we got a lot of backlog because I've been a little lazy and I got to do stuff.
Yeah, no, it's not lazy. It's just always the case, right?
Yeah, if you're like the solo programmer, it's like that's a lot to do.
Yeah,
Because right
yeah.
now we're doing MMO replication for inventories, and right now I'm handling. I hate Roblox's systems, so I do everything custom most of the time. So we're not using their replication system. We're using network abstraction,
Okay, yeah.
which is our own custom network script, which is about 3,000 lines of code. And then
Nice.
now we're working on an inventory system that is insanely difficult because you're having to cache a bunch of data, and then it's a nightmare. Okay, so give me a second
Self-inflicted,
here.
but it'll be worth it in the long run.
Oh, yeah. Okay, also, I'll go ahead and screen share this. I hope stuff isn't broken. That'd be mildly embarrassing. So I'll let everybody have a second to tune in
Cool.
here.
Yeah, I got swapped over to that. So.
Also, for reference, the map looks a little bare because we're doing some client replication for things like grass and such.
Yeah,
so.
that's what Nicholas was just showing me, that like how now all the grass and all that stuff is popping up client side. So
Yeah, it's incredible. It was ironically about 3 to 4 days of research because nobody on Roblox is doing this. But at the same time, that means there's no documentation about it either,
right.
which is mildly problematic. Okay, let me. There we go. Stuff is rendering in. I believe you guys can hear it. I have no idea though.
I can hear it coming through. Yeah.
So yeah, we're basically just doing combat related stuff right now, getting the game feel and some technical aspects done.
Yeah.
But this is a MMORPG that we're working on.
Wait, so
called Edgepoint.
how long have you been working on this? What were you saying?
19 days.
Nice.
Exactly. It started precisely on the 1st.
If it's okay, like if you want to keep running around, do you mind if I ask a couple questions that are coming up in chat now?
Yep, sure.
So
if you wanna voice them.
yeah, Roey's asking, what would your advice be for wholly independent projects? They're asking kind of specifically about animated works as well as games. So, and then there's a couple more, but I'll let you kind of speak to that first.
Okay, so
I guess maybe just generally, what's your advice for working on indie projects, essentially, right? I mean, I guess that's kind of...
so the best thing you can do is get eyes on it as early as possible. Try not to keep things internal for too long. Now, if you're trying to keep stuff secreted, then okay, there's some stuff you can do about that. But I definitely, like, for example, I see your message here. Itch.io is definitely a good, if you have a demo, post it there. Always try to, when you're making a game, worry about art, not last, but in a little bit. Try to basically just get the gameplay feel, and then once you have the gameplay, make a basic menu, throw it on Itch, get some feedback, and then use that to shape the game. Unfortunately, I can't really give too much information about animated works, but some really generalizations I could possibly make is I'd probably recommend, again, similar thing, try to get some feedback on like YouTube or Twitter. Throw out some work in progress stuff. Make sure to watermark in corner or something just to protect your work. That's always important. Trust me, even if you think, like, not to be insulting, even if you think like your work isn't too good, or you're just like, oh, nobody will copy this. It's like a work in progress thing. People will, and it will hurt your image. Definitely throw. Sorry, let me throw. I'm just trying to enable a setting real quick, and my brain's blanking. Where is it? There it is. There we go. So basically, just try to protect your brand image as much as possible. Because as an individual creator, if people see your name and eventually you're trying to, for example, do animated films or independent projects, try to protect your name as much as possible. Because your name is a seal of quality, and that's what you want it to be. And that's kind of all I have to say about that. Sorry.
No, that's great.
It's kind of a weird thing. Oh wait, I see they talked about voice actors.
Yeah.
I actually do have some experience with voice acting.
Oh, cool.
So the main thing I would recommend with voice actors is you have to realize the most important thing from a demo reel. Find somebody who has a similar voice to what you want. Because the more you strain a voice actor's voice to an altered, version. So like, for example, say you want somebody with a really deep voice, like, some grumbly old man, right? try to get somebody who can do that voice decently or has something in their demo reel similar. Because the more you push a voice actor out of their comfort zone, kind of the worse results you'll get. And for directing them, just realize that the best way to do it is, ironically, imitation. If you can kind of get the thing about voice acting is it's inflection. So there's certain points in, say, a dialogue that are important. Because you'll want to... I don't know if you've ever messed with voice acting, Ian. But it's I don't know if you can collaborate or...
Yeah, I can talk about that some. I was going to ask you what your experience was with voice acting. So
I haven't done it personally, but I have worked with a couple of voice actors and directing them. And it's basically the thing I always try to do is I try to focus on not on the voice, because I can't do the voice. And me trying to do the voice and directing them will just confuse it. Which is the thing is each voice actor, they'll know the voice you want once you just run them through their voices. Go like, I want that one, little deeper, little higher. Can you maybe throw in this certain accent, something like that? And then once they're reading the lines and you don't exactly like the lines, go through it and break it up with them. Add commas or whatever if you want them to pause. Just emphasize kind of how you want the line to be read. Because what's on the paper might not be exactly what you want. And you just have to realize that.
Would you give them like, an example? Like, would you have an example of like, having them listen to somebody or stuff like that? Or did you ever do anything like that?
It's a hard thing to describe. I could give an example. But the only way I could give an example is I'd have to show a trailer for something. Would that be fine?
Sure.
Because it has some of the voice actors' lines in it. So I'm going to real quick stop screen sharing for a second.
Yeah.
And let me just grab this trailer, which I believe is unlisted. So I got to real quick pull it up again. So give me one moment here.
Yeah, no problem. No, this is super cool. Well, yeah, so I mean my background with voice acting was when I was at Game Loft in Montreal. I was one of the only people in the studio that didn't have a Quebecois accent, and so I actually ended up getting to do some voice acting, and which was just a lot of fun. I liked working with the sound guys and everything, and then somehow that happened at the NCSoft studio I was at out in California too. I think that they were recording like placeholder stuff, but they were just put out a call for like if anybody has had any type of voice acting experience before or anything. I was like, well, I guess technically I have. So I actually got to do that at my other studio job when I was working as a senior game designer there. So cool. Yeah, okay.
Okay, so I got the trailer up here, which I'll play through and then rewind real quick.
Yeah, cool.
So it's 52 seconds, so I'll go ahead and play it. I think you guys will be able to hear it, but just let me know if you can't.
Traumatic event detected. Administering emergency stimulation protocol.
Classic. Anyway,
yeah, cool, man.
So that's
looking awesome.
So we're gonna go back to this line, because this line was real problematic. Because the problem is the voice actress is obviously not a robot. So how do you get somebody to get the inflection you want without being too robotic, but also because it's a weird area. You want a voice assistant to sound human-like, but not so robotic that they're a robot. So let's just real quick run through the line real quick with what the end result was. Real quick.
Traumatic event detected. Administering emergency stimulation protocol.
So the way that she was reading it was she was basically the pauses weren't there. So the thing with a voice synthesis is you kind of have to realize that they iterate through it. So a good way that we basically said to do it is pause like slightly in between each word and emphasize with a kind of at the end of each. And basically that got the effect we wanted with some post-processing added to basically get that pause in between the voice lines, which just wasn't there before. Because it was basically just like traumatic event detected, administering, emergency protocol. That doesn't, like, obviously there's more inflection, but it's like that pacing isn't correct. You have to slow it down.
Right,
And
yeah.
that's just one thing. The easiest thing to do is have them do pauses. And then you go, okay, that was a little too long, a little too short. And just go, that's perfect. And then you have to always remember, voice actors' lines can be edited in post, ever so slightly. Don't try to
let them
annoy the
know.
heck out of them. Yeah, don't try to annoy the heck out of them. It's like, if you really are worried about the pauses, have them do really big pauses and then splice it up. It'll work just fine.
Did you end up doing the trailer yourself, or how did you do that?
Yeah, so this was between me and Jeffrey Simmons. So we ended up doing all that.
Wait, yeah, you mentioned Jeffrey Simmons before, and I don't know that name off the top of my head. What were you saying he worked on before?
So he worked on Fury. Have you ever heard of that?
I feel like
Furi. It's by the Game Bakers.
Wait a second. Furi.
You'll see it and you'll like.
That's why I'm like, I'm sure I'm gonna recognize it when I see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can actually probably.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, okay. I do know.
Yeah,
but yeah, if you want to pull it up.
This game, yeah.
Yes, yeah,
For those,
cool, man.
of those a long time ago. For those of you who are Souls-like fans, you got this one. He was the sound engineer on this.
Oh, cool.
So
very cool.
So he did a lot of the sound design on the Eden Remains trailers. And also, yeah, this project is currently on pause. That's why that's why it's unlisted right now.
So yeah, are you pretty much full timing on the Roblox project right now?
For the time being, yeah. I kind of am taking a step back from Revelation. I was doing that before even the Unity Garbo got announced. That I basically just decided that I kind of wanted to. It was too much day to day. Like, yeah, I was paying myself, but at the same time, it's like Revelation now has 10 employees.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, I didn't want to do that all full time, and I needed to spend time with my fiance since we finally moved in and all that. So it's kind of important that I take a step back and free myself up. And that's where it's like, I co-founded it with Jeffrey. I trust him. So he's running the day-to-day, and I'll just come back in because I have an ownership share. And Dreadwater Interactive is the parent company, because technically it is. So I come in about once a month and kind of go, what's going on? But then the Unity stuff happened, and now I'm even more happy to be messing around with Roblox.
Yeah.
I was also doing slight Unity project right before the shutdown as well, where I was working on a kind of predecessor to or not a predecessor, but like a allude to like Sly Cooper.
That's what I saw on Twitter. So yeah,
yeah, this is what I was really recently working on this, and this got stopped pretty quickly. So this is now dead. I don't know what I'm gonna do with this. Probably Godot.
Well, yeah, we have some time. Yeah, do you mind giving us, I don't want to feed anything or ask leading questions about it. So, I mean, why don't you give us your take on kind of what's going on with all the Unity stuff, basically?
Okay, so the thing with Unity is it's not the fact that they're asking for an install fee. Even though that is pretty messed up, because tracking installs is almost impossible. There's always going to be issues. There's always going to be piracy loopholes, which it got to the point when they announced it. Not only when it was rolled out and announced very, very poorly, to the point where they had automated bots going over piracy in the replies. Additionally, it's it going backwards, or being recursive, I guess, if you want to say it.
Right.
It is the problem. And retroactive, that's the word, which is a problem because earlier this year they removed a clause from their terms of service, which was meant to prevent such a thing. So the fact that Unity willingly and knowingly closed their public TOS, which was open source on GitHub, where everybody could check it, privated it, changed this on the side, had people just accept it with their Unity stuff, and then go and announce this retroactively, no opt-in, no opt-out, and it's mainly hurting the smaller creators that what made Unity, if I'm gonna be honest, was the indie teams of 8 to 10 people who made
Right.
a really high quality game, because not everybody wanted to use Unreal Engine, or it wasn't actually too great before Unity or before Unreal 4. Unreal 3 was pretty bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Unreal 4 kind of came in, and Unity pushed Unreal to get better, and vice versa.
I know, yeah. You probably remember, to me, I'm like, there was a period with Unreal 4 that was like this. I mean, they're not copying Unity, but they certainly learned a lot of tricks from Unity.
Oh, yeah. It was back and forth.
Yeah.
It's
Right,
the classic
exactly.
line of competition breeds
Yeah,
innovation.
good. Yeah.
And it's like, and that really shows now in Unreal Engine 5, which has so many features that they're trying to beat Unity out of.
Yeah.
And it's just the idea that they would violate their TOS retroactively has
Right.
hurt Unity's brand image unrepairably. Nobody will trust them anymore, because the thing is, even if they roll back on this specific thing, what's going to happen in 2 years? They're going to do something like this again, because they've proven that they're willing to.
So what I wanted to ask you then is, I mean, because to me, that's really the crux of it, right? Is that it's I don't trust your terms of service, and I don't trust that you're not going to change, because it's so clear that they made these changes knowing that they were leading up to this.
Oh, yeah. And it just proves the fact that they no longer care about their developer base, is what it feels like. It feels like they know that, like, okay, we can make more money. Let's make more money.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it doesn't quite make sense as well, because you have to realize Unity has made enough money from their licenses and from the previous, fees that they had for, I think it was over a certain number of sales of revenue.
Right. Yeah. It's like,
they were making money, and like enough money to have a very big studio as they do. And it's just they want more of it, and the fact that they're willing to violate the privacy and trust of their developer base in order to just get more money is absolutely absurd. And that's why you should really, if you want a good engine, not necessarily go with Godot, but I do recommend try going for something open source. Because the thing about open source is they can't go back.
Yep.
And you always will have a private version of it.
That's kind of what I've been talking to everybody about, is that, Unreal is tempting. I mean, there's problems with Unreal. There's reasons that I really went with Unity rather than Unreal. But now looking at any licenses like that, where they're like, Unreal has come out and said, look at this part of our end user license agreement. We can't do what Unity just did. But if you read literally the next paragraph, it's
like they can remove that previous clause.
Well, and it's even, they say, you can stick with this agreement, but you can't have any of our services unless you agree with our updated agreement. It's like, well, I'm very likely going to be tied into your services if I'm using your engine.
The thing that I like to view an engine as is it's the equivalent of, if you're a painter, it's your easel, and your easel needs to be high quality and reliable. Okay. And if it's not reliable, imagine you're painting an absolute masterpiece and that easel collapses and ruins your painting. It's an investment to spend extra or look into the future. So it's like you could make your own engine if you really wanted to mess with graphical libraries like Ogre 3D and Raylib and all that kind of stuff. Or
now I know you're
MIT. So it's all just about engines, and your tools are an investment, and try to pick wisely, because no matter what you're learning, you're most likely going to be stuck with it for a long while, because that's what you're going to be using or paying for. So knowing not only how good the tool is, but also what the company is behind it and how they treat their consumers. Like Adobe has kind of proven, their products are really good, but they really do not value their customer base, and they kind of know that. But that's your decision. It's like, I can't use anything but Photoshop, so I'm fine paying for Photoshop.
Right.
And at the end of the day, if you guys still want to use Unity, you can. It's up to you. I mean, it's still free. It's just like, don't, but you can.
I mean, for me, even what I've been telling everybody is like, look, even if I didn't have any personal feelings about this, which I do, but even if I didn't, the fact that Unity is 100% destroyed industry trust at this point, that it's like just
Unity
for training.
is going to mess themselves up from this,
Yeah.
especially with how many major games are now removing themselves from the Unity engine.
Yeah.
Their revenue, in their attempt to grab more revenue, they have burned a lot of revenue they were
because
already getting.
The crazy thing is the people that they were trying to squeeze the money out of are the people that are big enough to say, forget you, we're going to now, even if we, whether it's Godot or like
they
you're saying,
somehow have ticked off the big players and the little ones in one go, and that's skill. That takes skill to do that. And it's like the main thing is Unity flew like Icarus too close to the sun, and it ended up punishing themselves greatly. So it's like while I do champion freedom of choice and whatever tool you guys wish to develop in, just make sure you guys are considering the future of your tools as well, because your career could be built off of, say, if you learn Maya, you're going to get hired for Maya work if you're really good at it. Same with Blender.
Yep.
Out of the two of them, which would you pick? The open source one, the one you can always roll back to a previous version of.
Yep.
It's all about, it's an investment. It's an investment in not only your career but also the tool. If you use the tool, the better that company will prosper, the longer you can use that tool.
I have two words.
Yeah.
John Riccatello.
Yeah.
Enough said.
Ken worked at EA while John Riccatello was the CEO of EA, so he has.
I love this one meme that's been surfacing again, where it's like him talking about like like 8 hours into a Battlefield playthrough. If we charged you $1 to reload, you're not really price conscious at that point. And it's like, what?
There you go. That's what I dealt with for 8 years.
That mindset immediately proves he should not have been running Unity. And the fact that the Unity board of directors went through hiring him with this is public information, just proves that they wanted money and they planned this a lot of time.
That's part of what's depressing to me, is knowing that we're just going to see him get hired somewhere else. Like, who keeps hiring this guy?
I know. It's like, how many companies can you burn to the ground before your reputation is burned with it? It's like, it's all, I swear, this guy just has like connections in the back pocket where he's like, oh, I guess I'll go work for this company now. Or
as soon as he left, EA stock had dropped nearly 2/3 during his tenure, and then as soon as he left, it started to go up again. Because EA started to make better decisions.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, they're still making bad decisions objectively, or DICE is.
They have a gift for that, but
yeah, it's like
he was a clown. He really was.
It's like, imagine abandoning Star Wars Battlefront 2 for 2042 Battlefield. That's the stupidest decision I've ever seen. Killed a freaking 10K concurrent game that was making a lot of money just for a piece of garbage, basically.
Yeah,
it's all about that green thing that makes the world turn. It's just.
As soon as I heard he was going to Unity, I was very sad. But
see in chat, I agree with you that if he does resign from Unity, it would help, right? But the thing is it's not just him.
Yeah.
No.
It's the board as well. The people who own Unity. Eventually, things like this are going to happen again.
Well,
maybe not the exact same way, but
what was the merger with? Is it Iron Source or Iron Forge? What is the company that they merged with? That's where a lot of the board is from, and they are just as bad or worse than John, but they're just not. They're not the face men, basically, of
the thing I like to say is that CEOs, while being a face of the company, are never your friend. And like, for example, they're never actually doing what you think they're doing. Like, for example, Phil Spencer is a gamer, and technically he is, but you have to realize that with that amount of experience, they have a goal. They are basically an employee of their board of directors. Yeah. Their goal is to make money. And if they don't make money, then their job is gone. And you have to realize companies at the end of the day, while they do sometimes care about you, they need to make money in order to stay alive. And that'll objectively be their number one priority. before customers.
Are you
Even if
saying
they
this?
say it is.
Are you saying this as a CEO?
No, well,
Wait a minute. Wait a
is
minute.
I have to. Well, I have to acknowledge the same thing. At the end of the day, I need money to keep my company afloat,
Yep.
and that is my number one priority is making money. Number two priority is keeping players happy. Because if the thing is, which I feel like all these companies are forgetting, which is basic business, if you tick off your customer base, you're not going to make money.
Yeah.
So making such drastic changes without community feedback, because it was just Unity opened on their forums a discussion about this kind of topic and made a rule set and was more transparent about it, nobody would be as upset as they are right now. If they wanted an install fee, fine. But talk with the community, find maybe certain parameters you want to change, open discussion before you make the change. Don't just drop it. Because it's like literally they dropped it and said, oh, January 1st, it's happening.
And I think that, again, it goes back to the huge thing is that watching the fishy trail of the terms of service changes is what is like, I think that's what a lot of people are missing about. That's what's such a killer for people that are serious about, developing games long term,
Yeah, it's wild to me that Unity went a step further. And basically it's like, yeah, you can tick off your customer base, but also being so like basically altering your terms of service is such a big step to screw over your customers. Like that's a really big thing. And it's like that is unforgivable most of the time. Because terms of service changes are never immediate. And most of the time they're usually opt in or opt out, or they're a lot smaller than this.
Right.
Because basically you're removing a massive clause which removes or rather prohibits them from doing retroactive changes. That is insanely major.
I mean, and it's still one of those
10
things
plus years
where it's like, I think everybody's like, are they legally allowed to do that? Because I thought that was what the clause was for, but
so the thing is a company, no matter what, is able to alter their terms of service.
Right.
The thing is some clauses, it has to be stated. I'm almost certain that if you read the terms of service somewhere, there's a clause that Unity can change their terms of service at any time. Because objectively, they can.
Right.
It's just really, really bad practice.
They didn't write a law, right? Yeah, it's like
it's incredibly bad practice to just alter it on a whim. It's like, and usually people will notice. Like most of the time,
especially
like
when you have it on a public
open
repository.
Source. Yeah, it's like they're purposely like, let me just private this real quick, and then it's like, okay, what's gonna happen? And then like people just immediately notice anyway when they go live with it. So they're like, oh wait, this change was made a little bit after it went private, which is just like, geez. The main thing is, it's just companies, while they need to make money, they have to realize that their customer base is the source of their money. You can't ever break their trust. But it's always number one priority. Number one priority is always money. Number two priority should be your customer base. They're satisfied with your product, they'll devote themselves to your product. Like Blender. People love Blender. People love Godot. People are donating hundreds of thousands of dollars to Godot.
Yeah.
All because they're being good human beings while also realizing they need to make money. So they're kind of, they're pleasing their customers, because if your customers are satisfied, they'll be more likely to spend money on your product or donate in this case, because Godot, I believe, is a nonprofit.
Just for fun, I'm just throwing the Godot Development Fund into the chat just so people can see that went up from last week being at 28,000 euros per month, has gone up
like 40,000, isn't it?
It's at 47,000 now. I've seen it go up today.
It's incredible, and Godot definitely deserves it. And it's just like, if you guys can support open source or use open source, that's usually the way to go, because open source cannot be undone.
Yeah.
If you open source a product, no matter what, that version, even if like you open source anything, let's say you make a game and you open source it, you can keep a product separate, but you can't ever take that down.
Yeah.
That's there. That MIT license is stuck.
Yep.
You cannot undo that. And that's beautiful, because it's like, for example, Blender. You guys will know that in 10, 15 years, it's open source. People will edit it to work on new Windows versions or Mac OS or whatever. And it will still be the same, even if Blender makes some stupid decision like Unity did.
If Linux ever gets widely adopted, it will run on that too.
Yeah, it's just like, and that's the beautiful thing about just community-fed development projects
Yeah.
is that people who love the product will work on it and make contributions to the repo to try to get it to work on new systems perpetually, especially if they really love it. And
Well,
also, it also is a benefit. For example, like if Blender goes under in 5 years,
right, right,
Blender the product will still be there.
right. Ken, I don't know. Do you have any last questions or anything like that?
I have nothing. I've really enjoyed meeting you and enjoyed listening to your story.
And you're in
Yeah,
Kearney,
it's been
so
awesome.
we'll actually have to meet up at some point. You're not that far away, so
That's
Yeah,
true.
it's a 3 hour drive, I think.
yeah, that's
from,
doable. Hey, thank you so much for being here today. And then, well, hopefully we'll get you to drop in some more too in the future. But especially, it will be interesting. I'm assuming at some point you'll get to talk about the rare stuff at least a little bit if it comes.
The NDA expires on January 1st.
Hey, okay, then we'll plan for
So
right after January.
I can give
so.
some information
Yeah,
post
cool.
that.
Okay, cool. And then obviously too, you're also like we'd love to see like if there's any stuff you want to be sharing in our server. I know you're already going to be having to do all your own
Yeah,
marketing and
I'm
stuff,
considering providing some like game design templates and things like that for
cool.
you guys.
That'd be awesome,
So,
man. Super cool. And
yeah.
we definitely. I mean, it would be fun for us just to maybe do a one-on-one call sometime or something like that. Just
Oh,
to
for
chat
sure,
some
for
more,
sure.
so.
Yeah, definitely accept my friend request on Discord.
Yeah. I think I already did. So.
And something else I want to preface for everybody here in chat. If you guys have any questions, I'm going to be opening my DMs for this server, so you don't have to add me. Just shoot me a DM on Discord if you guys have any questions or want feedback on something. I am perfectly happy to provide feedback or whatever. You can also ping me. I don't care. That's why I'm here.
That's awesome.
you can-
Thanks, man. That's super generous of you. Because I know you're busy but yeah, I'm excited. I want to keep getting to know you better because I mean that's definitely. I know that we're just hearing like the tip of the iceberg of. Definitely sounds like an interesting career you've had already so far. So.
Yeah, you'll definitely be seeing a lot of more of Archmore over the next month and a half. I think you're really
Yeah,
going to love
cool,
what we
man.
got cooking.
Awesome.
So,
Well,
yeah.
thank you everybody for hanging out, and thanks again, Nathaniel. It was super cool, a lot of fun, and I appreciate you letting us record it too. I'll get this uploaded and share it in the server in a little bit. So, cool. Well, thank you everybody. I'm gonna head out. Everybody's welcome to hang out, obviously, if they want to. But Nathaniel, thanks again, and I'm gonna go probably like take care of toddlers and go pick up kids and stuff like this. So,
Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.
yeah, you too. Thanks again.
No worries.
Thanks, Nathaniel. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.